right, folks, Troy Dooley here with MLM Help Desk, and I have the Chief Science Officer of Ocean Avenue, Franco Cavaleri. Thank you so much.
That's my pleasure, Troy.
Now, you're really new to network marketing. I mean, you've got a great background, but this is really the first stint with a network marketing company. Is that correct?
It is, yes. I come from the conventional brick-and-mortar health industry, and I'm more a researcher. I've spent a lot of time in a laboratory, and it's sporadic for me. I'll spend 5 years in a laboratory doing research and 2 or 3 years developing products and building brands, but I end up back in the lab regularly. It's just my passion. I've had several projects that I've worked on over the last decade and a half that just keep taking me back to the lab to perfect them, and it's where I spend most of my time and most of my mind.
I like that. Now, you've gotten into this, I mean, really into the science and the research when you were bodybuilding as a young adult. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. The impetus for me originally was about performance enhancement, and everything I did in the laboratory at the University of British Columbia was focused on enhancing recovery from weight training, power, building muscle as a bodybuilder. I was a young man looking to, build the body of my dreams, and that evolved into, a competitive mind and a competitive field.
Sure. And
that laboratory became my playground as much as the gym did.
Wow. Now, you went through a health issue, right, when you were working out? I think you were going for, was it Mr. North America? You were working out and getting ready for that when you had a health issue?
That's right. I guess the universe kind of works in funny ways. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if you're moving too fast, it slows you down. And a lot of times it prepares you for what you need to be prepared for in the future. And I had been studying at UBC, inflammatory cascades, mm-hmm. and trying to maximize my body's capacity to recover again from this weight training through anti-inflammatory compounds. And in 1991, while preparing for the IFBB Mr. North America Championship, I became quite ill. And it was an illness that it seemed to come and go, yet in 91 it came with a ravaging smash that took me down. I ended up in the hospital and went from 230 pounds to about 175 pounds in a matter of 8 weeks. Wow. Bleeding, anemic. I was eventually diagnosed with ulcerative colitis.
Now, what is that?
It's an inflammatory disease where the large intestine is the primary attack of the immune system. It's an autoimmune condition. Oh, wow. And not a lot is known about it, but it's becoming more prevalent. These autoimmune diseases are prevalent in our first world countries, where I guess modernization has kind of changed the chemistry of life for us. Wow. In third world countries, we don't see autoimmune disease very frequently.
Is this due to just synthetics and stuff we put in our foods, or?
It's quite possible that these things are triggers, but there is a genetic or familial component that contributes to the vulnerability. But what happened was I became so ill that none of the conventional allopathic medicines were able to subdue the symptoms. My body wasn't responding, and Dr. Anderson at the time at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver, British Columbia, they were desperate as I was, and they said, we have to do surgery immediately and take out your large intestine. Wow. And that's one of the coping mechanisms. I don't like to call it a treatment, but ultimately to take out the primary tissue of attack and alleviate the inflammatory cascade.
So they would have had to take out your whole large intestine?
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the interesting thing that happened is that the 9 weeks in the hospital gave me some time to think about the past, and I realized that some substances that I was using for performance enhancement were either causing the problem or contributing to it, okay, or alleviating the problem, because it would come and go for me over the year prior to being hospitalized. And I went back to really, because I documented my training meticulously in notes, the weights I used, the foods I ate, and I realized that when I was using the substances, it's when I became ill and I had gastrointestinal disturbance. So I thought it's quite possible then that this is a genetic anomaly, as they say, and the compounds that I had extracted were subduing the symptoms or keeping it in remission, and it would become symptomatic when I was off. So I gave it an opportunity. I went back, extracted the material. Excuse me. And in fact, what happened was I was literally walked out of the hospital, arm in arm with my brother on one side, my dad on the other. Couldn't walk out.
Oh, man.
Picked up the raw material, extracted it, and within about 3 to 5 days of using it, I was better. Within about 3 to 5 weeks, it was as though nothing had happened. Good. Nobody could believe it. I went off the substance, and the disease state started to come back. Did that 2 or 3 times and realized that, you know, this in fact was keeping me in remission. Went back to training after several months, after regaining my strength, and in 1992, approximately a year later, I won Mr. North America.
Wow. So
this substance allowed me to bounce back.
Now, is this a natural substance that you were able to formulate and realize what it was that was working?
It was. It's a herb, and the herb is known as an anti-inflammatory, yet what I was able to do was find the fraction within the herb that has the biological activity as the anti-inflammatory, extract it and use it in full force. Because one of the challenges is in order to get results from this substance, you need to use so much of it that there's contraindications with using so much. It tends to cause bloating, nausea, but by extracting the material that is active, you're using it at full concentration and the bioavailability is increased. And that's another thing. You have to use so much of it because it's hard for the body to absorb the actives.
Okay.
So I was able to perfect this the pharmacology and fine-tune the ingredient. After winning Mr. North America, I had the opportunity to go professional, but I decided, you know, that this is going to be my mission, is to really bring this to fruition for those who would require it to improve.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because you really have gone on a mission. I mean, this isn't something just, hey, I found it and it's for me. You've continued to do, I mean, that's part of what your book is not just your thesis, but continuation of your,
absolutely,
what you've learned from all this.
Yes. And in fact, you know, that my postgraduate work at UBC, in fact, I graduated with a degree in biochemistry and nutritional sciences, and then went into postgraduate work on insulin function, diabetes, and then how that relates to inflammatory cascades, because inflammation became the central focus for me. And ultimately, the perfecting of this substance became my mission. The book itself speaks to lifestyles and anti-aging.
This is the book, guys. You can actually see. I mean, this thing's huge.
650 scientific studies that support the document, and it started out as my thesis, and then I converted it to layman terms for people to gain a better understanding of how they can change their lives.
Sure.
Because a lot of times, even with my condition, for example, we believe that, you know, we're vulnerable to our genes, and you know, there's nothing we can do about the genes that we inherit, but we can change the way they are influenced. You know, every choice we make in life influences our genes, and our body tends to move towards an inflammatory or a pro-inflammatory state, and that's especially so as we age, because the body tends to wear, and the wearing of hormonal receptors and hormones and how they're used in the body tends to move us towards this acidic and inflammatory state. And if we can subdue this, what we call subclinical inflammation, the inflammation that kind of festers, that we don't feel, we reduce our risk for disease, we reduce the intensity with which disease may manifest, whether it's genetically inherent or whether it's triggered by an environmental trigger. And that's what the book's about, and that's what my mission has been about. And the products that have come out of that mission ultimately empower the body with the capacity to manage this subclinical inflammation, or for those who may have chronic inflammation because of disease, it helps them gain control of their lives.
Let's talk about inflammation. For those that might be watching this interview that is just not quite sure what that is, can you elaborate a little bit on inflammation?
Well, inflammation, most people relate inflammation to disease, and it's an immune and cytokine response to injury or tissue damage. And we require inflammation for recovery because it improves blood flow and nutrient availability. The challenge is that our body can easily lose its ability to control the inflammation, and that's the tendency today. And simply because most people have heard of oxidation.
Oh, sure.
And oxidation is escalating. Oxidation is natural. It's not necessarily a bad word because we rely on oxidation just to produce energy.
Right.
The problem is that uncontrolled oxidation in the body causes damage, and we have antioxidants that our body manufactures to help control this oxidation, or this exhaust, so to speak. Glutathione is one of these powerful antioxidants. Catalase is another one that we manufacture inside our cells. Superoxide dismutase is another. And I created a product that is a unique extraction of whey that actually elevates glutathione better than any supplement in the marketplace today. And the way it does so is that it is a very high concentration of glutamylcysteine, which is a precursor for glutathione. And glutathione itself is very hard for the body to absorb. And it can get hard for the body to manufacture it in our cells as we age.
Okay.
And if concentrations decline, we become vulnerable to chemicals, toxins, and disease. It is primarily one of the detoxification agents in the liver.
Body? Okay,
in the liver.
Okay.
And throughout the body. It is a fuel and a way by which the immune system destroys microbes.
And when we're young, we manufacture this inside of ourselves?
We tend to be more efficient in the manufacture of it.
Okay.
And then the more we're exposed to chemicals, toxins, in fact even just stress, because stress itself, the way it imposes this damage on the body is through oxidation.
Okay.
Stress results in the release of corticosteroids and glucocorticoids, other compounds in the body that, if overproduced, they react in the bloodstream with blood sugar. And that's why insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, coupled with stress, is very toxic, because you have a high blood sugar, plus the stress hormones, they react in the bloodstream. The byproduct is oxidation, and oxidation is the way by which stress induces its damage in the body.
Okay, so if I'm young, I'm smoking, I'm drinking, I'm partying, I'm messing my body up. So as I put those types of chemicals, forget about just the outside chemicals, as that stuff goes into my body, then eventually, not just in the normal factors, but my glutathione and stuff, that's going to mess with all that, to where either I'm not producing enough, or I can't, it's going to mess up other anti-inflammatory immunity type systems that's in my body, to where when I get to be our age, 40s, I could have a hard time even staying healthy if I wanted, if I didn't have stress, if I wasn't overweight, I'd still have a hard time just keeping up with what's going on in life.
That's right, Troy. You know, the more of these factors that you compound on yourself, the greater chance you have of feeling symptoms or encountering disease. And here's how it works. You may have a genetic vulnerability for disease, yet if you stay fit and you're active and you're eating good food and supplements that elevate these internal antioxidants naturally, then the chances of you feeling the symptoms of disease, or the chances of this genetic vulnerability manifesting to the point where it's disabling you, are very low. As you age itself is another factor that escalates this oxidation and inflammation.
Okay.
So again, as we age, it becomes more important for us to eliminate the other factors we have control of. So really it's about saying, there's so many things in my life I have no control over. I have to choose the things I have control over to eliminate those from the equation.
Right.
And so, you know, we can use compounds like the one I've created, which is now called Empower in our new form.
And that's in the, and it's exclusive, right, to Ocean Avenue?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I've patented this technology, and we've teamed up with Ocean Avenue to make it available for people to change their lives, to empower their ability to prevent disease, to reduce the risk for disease, and to control inflammation, to slow down the rate of aging, to allow you to recover from day-to-day exercise, physical work in the backyard. You know, that stiffness that we feel the next day that we didn't feel when we were 20, just from the walk up the road.
No, just from putting up shutters when a hurricane's coming in. I know what you mean on that. Because
Exactly.
the next day flying up here, it's like I can feel just the stress and the strain of the muscles.
That's right. You know, when we're younger, the body has a better capacity to neutralize that inflammation and that oxidation. And so what we're doing is we're supplying the tools for the body so that it's empowered again, empowered the way it was when you were young.
Now, is this a powder form? Is it a capsule form? What type of form does this take if, in this case with Ocean Avenue?
Well, let's define the products a little more clearly.
Okay.
Empower is a capsule.
Okay.
It is the patented extract that I found
That
when
you
I was an athlete,
Okay.
and that I used to treat myself when I was dealing with ulcerative colitis.
Okay.
Empower can be used then to reduce or circumvent the inflammatory cascade. And then we've got a powder called Way Beyond, and it's not your common whey. This product has a very, very special amino acid profile. It's also undenatured, meaning that it retains a lot of the biological activity that whey has in its whole form, yet it's in a form that we can mix very easily. It tastes phenomenal.
It does taste phenomenal. It's a berry flavor. It's something
right.
I've never tasted before.
You've never seen a protein powder like it in the marketplace, because in order to maintain a high protein content, usually manufacturers need to add artificial sweeteners to it.
Right.
Because what happens is with artificial sweeteners and artificial flavors, they're so potent, you use very little. Now, in the case of our product, it tastes so good because it's not treated with acid or enzymes to hydrolyze it. It tastes so good that we have to use very little flavor and very little sweetener, meaning the protein content and all that biological activity that contributes to glutathione elevation
Right.
is concentrated, very high. The other thing is that it tastes so good, we don't have to add carbohydrate sweeteners to it. The alternative to the artificials would be, say, to add sugar, carbohydrates to sweeten it.
Right.
Some companies now are adding xylitol, and xylitol is an alcohol sugar. In fact, xylitol can kill your dog if the dog consumes 6 grams of it.
Oh my
Yet
goodness.
we're putting it in these protein powders. So what we've accomplished here is to produce a whey product that does not have any artificial sweeteners, does not have any carbohydrate sources, yet the natural sweetener, being stevia, is used in tiny, tiny amounts, so you don't have an aftertaste from it.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my 3-year-old granddaughter got my container the other day at the pool because I'm putting up hurricane shutters. She drank the whole daggum thing, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to get the runs or something. I didn't know what to, but she loved it. I mean, usually kids don't like vitamin-y taste or anything.
That's right.
She's chugging this thing.
No, it tastes like a nice shake, and my kids are the same. They'll consume it.
Now, let me ask you a question, because whey is something that, as I've scoured the internet, you've got soy wheys, you've got, I guess, milk. What is whey? Explain that a little bit.
Whey is the byproduct of the cheese-making process. You know, you've heard the old saying, curds and whey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the curds are cheese, and when we make cheese, we take the casein component of milk. Milk is made up of 2 main protein fractions, casein and whey.
Okay.
Now, whey has a very high biological value, and what that means is that the body's capacity to use the protein in the whey is very efficient. It can actually convert those building blocks into tissues, and it uses them to actually fuel the immune system better than it does the casein component that we use to make cheese.
Okay.
But when we make cheese and we take away this solid material, we're left with a liquid whey. And so what we do is we take that whey and we extract the actual benefit out of it and dry it.
Oh, okay.
So it is a dairy product, yet the lactose content is next to 0. In fact, we have people that are lactose intolerant using our product, no problem.
You know, and that's why I wanted you to bring that up, because my 3-year-old granddaughter is lactose intolerant. And I was so worried that I'm going to have a mess, I'm going to have to clean this up, and it's like, no effect.
That's right.
Whatsoever.
That's right.
And it was amazing to me. So that's called Way Beyond.
Way Beyond.
Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Now, what other products are going to be launched eventually with the company that you're part of?
So we have the Empower and Way Beyond, which are, in my opinion, 2 products that work amazingly for every single person in the family to reduce inflammation and enhance performance and empower you for life. You put those aside, and now we have fundamental products such as Way Smart. And Way Smart is an awesome product. It's like it's like you're way beyond, but brought into a food environment to be used daily for children, for seniors, for adults, for every member of the family. In fact, every product can be used by every family member because it's natural, no artificial sweeteners.
Okay.
But Way Smart is more of a food supplement. You know, our lifestyles are so fast that we're not making the right food choices.
Sure.
And the reason why I built Way Smart is primarily for children. And the reason is that, you know, attention deficit disorders and hyperactive disorders are prolific amongst our children.
Sure.
And these are not necessarily neurological disorders. I mean, kids are being diagnosed with these disorders, and Ritalin and other drugs are being prescribed when they're not necessary for the majority of them. Diet is the primary cause for most of these children, not neurological dysfunction. And the way it works is this, you know, your child wakes up in the morning and will have, say, a breakfast cereal like Rice Krispies or another brand.
Oh, yeah, something, yeah.
And so let's put it this way: if you puff rice and you have those tasty little puffs that are nice and sweet, what happens is the glycemic load of the rice and the glycemic index of that rice goes up significantly.
Okay.
The glycemic index is a measure of a carbohydrate's ability to raise blood sugar. And it's becoming a well-known concept because diabetes and obesity is prolific and is related to this insulin elevation and blood sugar elevation.
Okay.
So here's what happens. If we consume these processed breakfast cereals that are carbohydrate loaded and high in glycemic index, blood sugar rises high, real fast. Now you think of your child. You send them to school, high blood sugar, but the response to that is the body then releases a lot of insulin to bring blood sugar down to normal levels. Because if blood sugar stays too high, it can be problematic in the body. That's the cause of diabetic neuropathies. So blood sugar goes up, insulin meets it, and now blood sugar drops. So here's your child in school, blood sugar is high. When it's high, you have hyperactive disorder.
Sure.
And then suddenly, blood sugar goes down. And what do you have? Attention deficit disorder.
Yeah.
And we've all had, you know, the feeling of low blood sugar. And then suddenly recess comes around. And your child eats what? Maybe an apple, which can be higher glycemic index today. Apples today are genetically modified to have higher sugar than they used to have years and years ago.
Oh, wow.
And they're sweet. Taste an apple today and really taste it.
Oh, it's sweet.
It's
yeah.
sweet. Or raisins, for example, high glycemic index.
Wow.
So you have your child going through these periods, then lunch comes around. What do you have? White bread, peanut butter and jam.
Yeah.
High blood sugar, and then down. What we want to do is eat so that our blood sugar is doing this throughout the day
Okay.
instead of this.
Makes
That's
sense.
how we want our children to live their lives, because then they're more mentally stable, their energy levels are more balanced. And Way Smart is designed to do that. Way Smart supplies multiple protein sources that have that are releasing their goodness over a longer period of time. It also includes fibers to help slowly release sugars in the body.
Okay.
So if you couple Way Smart to a meal, it helps to reduce the glycemic load. Excuse me. And if you use it as a snack, it's a low-calorie snack that supplies protein and fiber. Protein and fiber tends to be, those two nutrients tend to be most commonly compromised when we're eating fast foods.
Okay.
Because fast foods tend to have higher carbohydrate contents. So let's say you run into the house, you're hungry, you're going to eat a snack. You're going to pick something that's usually on your counter. Now,
Sure.
protein is not going to sit on your counter. Usually it's in the fridge.
Yeah.
You need to prepare protein. Something that has a high fiber vegetable diet is usually something you need to prepare.
So Vienna sausage in a can is probably not high protein.
Well, I mean, it is high protein, but then you've got a lot of the preservatives.
But yeah,
and things
because
like
I've
that.
seen people, Troy, this is my protein. It's like, really? In a can? That's kind of nasty looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, what you're going to choose is, you know, a cookie, high carbohydrate, high glycemic index. You're going to choose, you know, bread, something you can grab real fast and go.
Sure.
You know, even your little granola bars, high glycemic loads.
Wow.
So, Way Smart is designed to combat these common selections of food that can alter blood sugar and
So that's a meal supplement or meal replacement? How would you define that?
Well, it's not a true classical meal replacement because it doesn't have all the essential fatty acids.
Okay.
The reason why we stayed with this alternative is, we call it a meal alternative, is because it's easier for people to use, it tastes better this way, and we don't have to add carbohydrate. In order to call it a meal replacement, it has to have a significant carbohydrate load in it. I'm not willing to do that because all of a sudden now, we're adding carbohydrate to a supplement when we already know our diets have way too much carbohydrate in it.
Okay.
I don't want to give that to my kids.
Okay, I can understand that. So this would be, if somebody's on a program where they're trying to really maintain their weight, or they're wanting a maintenance type program to where maybe they're like me, they're not obese but they're overweight. They could use this. It's going to help them with their weight as long as they're, well, kind of like following your plan back here. If I'm following your plan, I could use this, and it's going to help me guide into what I'm looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is, you don't have to think about it. If I'm hungry at night, you know, and I need a snack, it's either Way Smart or Way Beyond. It would be Way Smart for the average person, but if I had a real active day where I worked out in the morning and I went for a run in the afternoon, I would probably use Way Beyond as that snack at night, because it's low calorie, but it also elevates glutathione a little more potently than Way Smart does.
Okay.
Again, Way Smart is more of your food, where Way Beyond is more of your recovery nutraceutical supplement.
Okay.
But Way Beyond is good for the family because every family member could use it as the food supplement. Whereas the Way Beyond is something you would use if you're really active and require that upper level support.
Okay, so let me get it. Let's say my wife and I, we got a regular day. We you know, maybe we went walking, but we're running with the kids and all that. Then Way Smart would probably be pretty good. And then my girls who are in gymnastics and dance and all that stuff, maybe Way Beyond would be good. Okay, I can understand.
Somewhere along that cycle, we have to break the cycle.
Okay.
And Invigorate helps to break the cycle. It improves insulin efficiency while it's improving serotonin efficiency, so now mind and body are empowered.
Gotcha. Okay. I like that. Now, what's the last product?
And the last component of Invigorate
That's right.
is thermogenic activation. It activates the body's capacity to actually burn fat through what are called brown fat cells. And brown fat cells are different than our adipose white fat cells.
Okay.
Brown fat cells actually burn fat to create heat, to provide heat for the body. And when we're young, we have an abundance of these brown fat cells. As we age, inflammation and other factors in our lives tend to put that fire out and damage these brown fat cells.
Really? That's interesting.
Invigorate reinvigorates those fat cells.
And causes more heat, which automatically helps to burn more fat.
It causes the brown fat cells to burn fat as an energy source and create heat from them.
Okay, so I had it backwards, but okay, this is really unique. Now, is this, because we're network marketers, so is this something that is just now private labeled to Ocean Avenue? Somebody could go to another formulator and these are products that they would have, or this is part of your exclusive science that you've worked on?
Exactly, and I have patent pending status on 3 of these compounds. They're very unique. The molecular structure of one of them is a completely new novel molecule that I created as an anabolic driver for bodybuilding, but yet it enhances insulin efficiency like nothing we've seen in the marketplace. It is truly groundbreaking, and it's funny that I've had some researchers say, I mean, you know, this is like Nobel Prize technology. And I said, really? You think so? But you know, when you're so deep into something, you just think of, why didn't anybody else think of this? And you know, thinking back, it is pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing.
I think this is cool because I've started reading. I started up front, and then I realized I could read your Cliff Notes, and started reading in the back because, as you and I've talked, I've said, if I'm going to interview and document, then I want to be a living guinea pig. I want to be able to look at where I'm at today and then look at where my progress is, utilizing the system that you used when you were really bodybuilding, and you still do today.
Sure.
And using these products, which I think is phenomenal, but we still have one more product that we haven't talked about.
We do. I love this product. Now, the last product's Focus.
Mm-hmm.
I love Focus. Focus, Fred had already been in the developmental stages with Focus. And it was actually a product that he was going to launch, and he said, you know, I'm not sure how I'm going to launch this. And then Fred and Ken ran into me, and they convinced me, and I'm not an MLM guy.
I'm not.
and they convinced me to really investigate their platform and what they were about to engage in. And so I joined the team eventually after a month of them pursuing me, and I realized that what they were doing was formidable, because it wasn't about products.
Right.
And I had to wrap my head around that, because think about this. I'm a science guy.
Sure.
Who's selling the scientific value, the health benefits of what I'm doing, and they're saying, our company is not about the products. We want phenomenal products to be the driver of the business, but we want the company to be about family, about lifestyle.
Sure.
And once I understood what their vision was, I thought, okay, there's a great fit, because my products are about empowering people to take control of their health, to improve longevity, to improve quality of life, which fits perfectly into the vision. Mm-hmm. And so we teamed up, science and the vision of family and health and family principles. And I'm a family guy. Family's first for me.
Yeah, you got a great family.
I love my family. So it's a perfect marriage.
I love that, because I think when I look at all the products, and I realize that there is something here for each of the family members. And each of the product is interchangeable with family members. So it's not like, okay, this product's only for my kids, or this product's only for me. This is a family change. And you and I talked about that this morning of, man, I want to walk the beach with my family. I want us to get into shape, lose weight, have a life change. Not just a temporary, I'm on a diet, or, well, this was okay today, but I want to be able to not have a crutch. If something happened in Ocean Avenue, went poof overnight, that the life change that I've already entailed would keep me on that same path. And we teach that. I mean, that's the whole thing that we teach here.
Yeah.
See, that's and I get cracked up on this book.
That's amazing.
It's like, I threaten my kids now. Behave, or Franco's going to get you. I'm telling you. I mean, you've done some amazing things. Share a little bit about your family, though. I mean, you got a great little family.
I do. I have a beautiful 13-year-old girl who's going into high school now. Her life's about to change, and an amazing 4.5-year-old boy who it's just two different stages of life. Yet we get to appreciate those different stages at the same time. My wife, amazing human being.
Now she's into health like you are, right?
She's a very healthy, buys organic. She's just those kids. They don't even me. They don't even know what they have in my wife. Like, she's so amazing. Those kids eat in a regimented diet. Their lifestyle's regimented by her to make sure they're healthy. She's an amazing human being. Amazing human being.
See, to me, that shows you're leaving a legacy, because your kids, they're going to be carrying on what you guys teach them, and then they're going to carry that on to your grandkids down the road. To where here you've got this family to where eventually those great grandkids are going to say it was Grandpa Franco that got us started in this. And some of them may take. I mean, this is the cool thing about this, because you're a scientist and I'm not. But one of them may even take what you've already done and take it to a whole new level, Franco, somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
And I want our viewers to understand, this isn't just a company launching. This really is a movement. I mean, you are fine. I mean, you're going back to school. You're still up there at British Columbia University. You do a bunch of teaching stuff. But I mean, you're going back for that doctorate now.
Well, what happened was, I took the technology out of the university while I was there doing my thesis, and if I would have finished it there, they would have owned the intellectual property. So what happened was I decided to move it commercial, and I had 8 courses to go, and they asked me to come back, and we're collaborating now with a group of professors to finish the research. And they said, well, you just all you have is the 8 courses that we finished in 2 semesters. So and this was the original thesis, the book. And in fact, it was bigger than this, because this is only it is 500 pages, but 3 more books are now coming that came out of this. I published another one for dogs, in fact. And then
I've got that. I love that.
And then I have one that speaks to the inflammatory cascade and immune function that will be launched through Ocean Avenue.
Wow.
And so I'm going back, and in 2 semesters the PhD will be finished. But the objective is not about the education. It's more about doing the clinical trials and the work to do the peer-reviewed version of our research on Empower and inflammatory cascade. And I've been also asked now, based on the science and the work that's been done in here, that we repeat the studies in the oncology department, because there's an anti-C component to the product.
Oh, really? Wow,
so
that's going to be awesome then.
Yeah.
And you've been, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've actually been quoted on PubMed, am I correct on that?
Yeah, PubMed, various citations and regularly cited in the scientific world, because there are a few scientists doing nutraceutical research, because a lot of the research is funded by pharmaceutical companies. So I mean, it's great research. I mean, without pharmaceuticals, where would we be? But you know, the unfortunate thing is hard to find good funding for nutraceutical research, and that's another thing. You know, Ocean Avenue has committed to funding nutraceutical research.
I know that.
And
see, that's big there. And I want, so that everyone understands, scientist, bodybuilder, family man, entrepreneur. You've literally created, launched, and sold a couple very successful businesses in the past.
That's right. And you know, before moving on with Ocean Avenue on this endeavor, I was about to launch these technologies on my own. And it's very difficult, you know, to move into an environment when you're used to building your own business. Move on with a group that's making decisions you used to make on your own. But these guys are amazing. You know, they're very respectful, and you know, we've created an amazing relationship that is mutually respectful and considerate. And you know, taking me back to I guess something we went on a tangent there when we were talking about focus and the work that Fred was doing with Focus. I mean, Focus is an amazing product, and talk about respect and consideration. You know, he said, "What do you think of this product? You know, I know it's not one of yours in the scheme of things, but oh, it's great. This has to be part of the program. This is part of the marriage because it fits. You know, it's a product that creates mental awareness. I think it's the healthy answer to your energy drinks." You know?
And it's a pixie. I mean, it's like energy drink and a pixie stick. You just put it up in your mouth, under your tongue, whatever, and bam.
Yeah, and you get that fizzing feeling. Yet you get that heightened mental awareness without the jitters, because it's balanced.
Oh yeah,
it's balanced, and all of a sudden the lights get brighter. And the cool thing is that the reason I said to Fred, Fred, you don't even know what you've developed here. And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because the technology within this, I can find you the science that supports it, because I know the science. I work with this all the time. You can use that product before working out." And you know, a lot of people don't know this, that when they work out or go on the treadmill to do their cardiovascular activity for weight loss or for whatever the case is, your body starts burning glycogen for the first 15 to 20 minutes. Glycogen is our energy storage in the muscle. We also store glycogen in the liver. And most people think, well, I'm going to do this and burn fat, you know, from the minute I start. It doesn't work that way. You don't start burning fat until about 10 to 20 minutes. It depends on the person's metabolism, diet, and things like that, into the activity. So wouldn't you want to start burning fat the second you start? So not wasting time? Well, I said, here's the science. He says, well, how do I do that? I said, you did, you know, it was formulated this way, but it can be used that way, because I used to actually use technology similar to that. And so it works great. You take it before your workout, you burn fat right from the get-go, or you take it to get over that afternoon hump where you're feeling a bit down in the afternoon, and it's a perfect fit to the family of products, a perfect fit to the family vision.
So this is a true, well, we've coined this phrase, but it's a true life pack. I mean, everything they've put together is a life pack for people.
It is, yeah.
That's amazing. Folks, you heard it from the man himself. You know, Franco, I got to tell you, I'm always, every time we get together, I learn something. You know, and I'm able to take that back home, use it in my life, use it with my family. And I got to thank you. I know you're busy, I mean, obviously, and taking time with me has been great.
That's my pleasure. Always try.
Thank you. Hey, guys, you've been listening to Troy here, MLM Help Desk. Listen, live life like an epic adventure. Stay dangerous, stay strong, and if you're in network marketing, act like it.